Bunny's in quarantine too. CBSN's Ian Lee is in London with an answer.
Easter came early at the London Zoo with a traditional egg hunt. Meerkats clamored for tasty treats, but not all were in a festive mood. The Easter Bunny is on guard this year, too. At chocolate factories across Europe, employees making marzipan masks to ensure the rabbit is spreading joy, not coronavirus. German chocolatier Richard Muller says, we didn't want to play this crisis down, but we shouldn't lose our sense of humor in a time like this. With countries around the world anxious children in Germany wrote letters to the police. The Easter Bunny is in quarantine. But officers reassured them the holiday hero is exempt from the rules. New Zealand's Prime Minister had more reassurance.
You'll be pleased to know that we do consider both the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny to be essential workers.
These essential chocolate bunnies will be decked out in protective gear, even if not all the customers are.
Contact gloves?
And in a COVID-themed childhood classic, this London bakery is showing customers during the pandemic, it's better to be the tortoise than the hare.
Don't be a rabbit, be a tortoise. Stay at home.
Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
Easter weekend is usually a busy time for candy shops, but this year a little different, of course, leading many shops to alter the way they sell candy. A number of shops around the country offering curbside pickup, even home delivery for those holiday treats. One shop in Indiana that has remained open is offering a 25% discount for anyone who stays home and orders their Easter candy online. Shop owners agree that in such a difficult time, celebrating is more important than ever for the general public and the small business owners.
Small businesses are taking a hit right now. We're trying to keep people working. We're trying to keep, things going. And shop small, shop local, support everybody.
Last year, Americans spent almost $2.5 billion on Easter candy. One Florida chocolate factory wants to make sure children of healthcare workers are taken care of this Easter. Chocolat Factory is keeping its staff employed and giving back to the community by donating 200 Easter baskets to a local hospital. The owner says she just wants the busy hospital staff to have something to give their children for the holiday. This Sunday, Andrea Bocelli will perform live from Italy's empty Duomo Cathedral. The performance, titled Bocelli Music for Hope, is being offered as a global live stream on the opera singer's YouTube channel. It is set to begin 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, a time when many would have been attending Easter church services. Thanks for watching CBSN. We'll be right back with your weather forecast and today's top stories.
It's times like this that make you wonder, are we strong enough? Then something changes. We adapt, sacrifice, and remember how important it is to look out for each other.
Next on KPIX5, how an act of kindness is saving lives.
Turns out, it's times like this that show you exactly who we are. Better together. Every day, we're inspired to see how the Bay Area is rising to the challenge.
Just a token of our appreciation.
Sometimes when you're at your lowest in life, you come up with some of the greatest ideas.
So we're telling your stories, sharing resources, and connecting those in need with those who can lend a helping hand.
I thought it was just fabulous to be able to really help out in times of need.
Because we're always better together. Learn more at kpix.com/together. It's a sky-high view like no other, and now it's your perspective. Morning to night. From the tallest building in the West, the Salesforce Tower cams, only on KPIX 5 News. Expect more.
Hello, I'm Alan Martin. Welcome to those watching CBSN around the world. You're watching CBSN Bay Area and KPIX TV. It's because the CBS national headquarters in New York is closed out of an abundance of caution after several employees there tested positive for the coronavirus. CBSN remains committed. We're going to bring you all the important facts on this story's impact on all of us and what you can do to protect yourself and your families. Well, here's a look at some of today's top stories for you. President Trump is setting up a second coronavirus task force comprised of business leaders and doctors to work on reopening the country. But health experts say widespread testing will be key to returning to normal. The Treasury Department is trying to further ease the minds of taxpayers. The April 15th deadline to file your taxes was already extended. Well, now the department is extending more than 300 other tax filing and payment deadlines. Tax returns and payments for tax-exempt organizations due between April and June are now postponed until July 15th. Estate taxes are also postponed until that date. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has indefinitely extended its no-sail order for cruise ships. There are about 100 cruise ships still at sea around the U.S. with nearly 80,000 crew members on board. The CDC says at least 20 of the ships still sailing or those at port have crew members with known or suspected cases of the coronavirus. The total number of confirmed coronavirus cases in the U.S. passed 500,000 Friday, with more than 18,000 deaths. In New York alone, there are nearly 175,000 reported cases, more than any other country in the world. Well, there are some signs that things might be leveling off, leading President Trump to consider reopening the U.S. sometime next month. But as CBSN's Natalie Brand reports, new projections indicate the country could see a spike if stay-at-home orders are lifted too soon.
The White House Coronavirus Task Force celebrated progress this week.
You can see for the first time that in the United States, we're starting to level on the logarithmic phase like Italy did about a week ago. And so this gives us great heart.
But officials urge continued vigilance and caution, saying some areas could still see a surge in cases.
This is not the time to feel that since we have made such important advance in the sense of success of the mitigation, that we need to be pulling back at all.
The president also announced he's setting up a second task force comprised of business leaders and doctors to work on opening up the country.
We're looking at a date. We hope we're going to be able to fulfill a certain date, but we're not doing anything until we know that this country is going to be healthy.
While some White House advisors have indicated they'd like to see the economy reopen next month, health experts have said widespread testing will be key to returning to normal.
The issue is to build a testing strategy that speaks to our strengths of laser focusing a strategic approach to testing when we know what our volumes are and they increase every day.
Surgeon General Jerome Adams talked about steps the administration is taking to help communities of color disproportionately impacted by the coronavirus.
I need you to know you are not helpless, and it's even more important that in communities of color, we adhere to the task force guidelines to slow the spread.
And as millions of Americans face unemployment, some food banks have been flooded. The administration says stimulus payments will start going out next week, and Senator Chuck Schumer says he and Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin plan talks to try and reach a bipartisan deal on more emergency relief. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
A recent poll conducted by CBS News shows 59% polled think that the U.S. is dealing with coronavirus badly. Just 29% believe the Trump administration was prepared to deal with the pandemic. 38% of people polled believe there will be a cure in the next couple months. COVID-19 has now become the deadliest disease in the U.S., killing more people per day than cancer or heart disease. That's according to new data published in Newsweek by a California doctor. That data shows the average number of coronavirus deaths in the U.S. per day is now at 1,970. New York remains the U.S. epicenter of the coronavirus. The state reported 777 deaths on Thursday. But as CBSN's Michael George reports, there is evidence that social distancing measures are helping flatten the curve.
As the death rate from coronavirus continues to climb in New York, there are encouraging signs. The state's hospitalizations and ICU admissions are both down. Governor Cuomo says aggressive measures appear to have prevented the experts' worst-case prediction models from coming true.
The actual curve is much, much lower than any of them projected.
This temporary military hospital at New York's Javits Center has only a fraction of the patients it can hold, in part because hospitalizations have gone down. In New Jersey, where the rate of infection is slowing in some counties, the governor urged residents to continue social distancing, especially over the Easter holiday.
This cannot be a weekend to think we can let our foot off the gas. We're not even close, folks. We have to keep with it.
Pennsylvania now has around 20,000 cases. The White House is looking at Philadelphia as a possible new hotspot, with data showing African Americans are more at risk.
You look at all of the structural issues around all of these healthcare inequalities, all of these lower income jobs. It tends to impact individuals in neighborhoods of color a lot more than it does in other neighborhoods.
The virus continues to spread in the Midwest. A makeshift hospital at Detroit's Convention Center started accepting patients Friday. And in Wisconsin, the health department says it's monitoring potential coronavirus infections that may have occurred during Tuesday's election. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
A Brooklyn landlord has waived rent for hundreds of tenants after several of them told him they were out of work.
This is tough times, and I would hope if we were in this situation, people would do this for us.
Mario Salerno posted a letter to all of his 18 residential buildings in the borough saying that there would be no rent for the month of April. He says some tenants who still have jobs have offered to pay the rent anyway. More evidence of a racial disparity among coronavirus victims. New research has revealed a disproportionate number of deaths among African Americans. CBSN's Errol Barnett spoke with city leaders on what they're doing to flatten the curve in minority communities.
We put inserts into people's water bills with the social distancing measures, and then even our census takers when they're doing outreach.
Philadelphia's health commissioner sounded the alarm bells Thursday as the city's infections surpassed 5,000, sharing new data confirming African Americans are most at risk.
This problem is affecting people who have disadvantages even more.
There are real socioeconomic barriers when it comes to messaging in places like this in North Philadelphia. Roughly half the people here don't have access to the internet, and a majority of people in this part of town live below the poverty line. And that's why some are resorting to creative ways of getting the word out.
A lot of them are vulnerable.
Majida Rashid runs the Nicetown Community Development Center, a nonprofit serving 70,000 low to middle-income residents in Philadelphia.
We're calling them on the telephone directly. The new ways we're trying to reach out to people are kind of, we use them anyway, but social media on all platforms, including the ways that younger people use it on IG.
Councilman Darrell Clark says there are many reasons people of color are bearing the brunt of COVID-19.
You look at all of the structural issues around all of these healthcare inequalities, all of these lower income jobs. It tends to impact individuals in neighborhoods of color a lot more than it does in other neighborhoods.
Ann Clark says people of color tend to be on the front lines, with jobs leaving them exposed.
We have individuals that are working in these jobs in retail, in supermarkets, and stores around that are still allowed to be open. Those people have to deal with the public on a consistent basis, right? They are more likely to come in contact with somebody that may be affected than other people.
And we're also told generational mistrust of the government may be playing a role of why it's more difficult to get messages to minority groups, stemming from generations of feeling marginalized. And that's why you see people like Majida Rashid calling people directly. And she tells us the elderly folks she's speaking to just want to hear a local friendly voice, and they are afraid right now. Errol Barnett, CBS News, New York.
We are learning about the biggest coronavirus outbreak so far at a homeless shelter in San Francisco. CBSN's Wilson Walker shows us some say the warning signs were ignored.
An outbreak has occurred in MSC South, one of our shelters. 70 people, 68 members of the shelter, as well as 2 staff members who have tested positive for COVID-19.
The largest shelter in San Francisco is now functioning as a ward for the infected, with medical staff on hand in case anyone gets seriously ill.
Many of them have chronic health conditions and are vulnerable to getting very sick or even dying from coronavirus.
The announcement of the outbreak comes after a weeks-long dispute over how to best shelter the city's homeless.
We need to move people into hotels now. It is absolutely inevitable that we're going to have outbreaks in all the shelters. It's impossible not to.
It was inevitable. It was also preventable. A month ago, I was yelling and screaming and demanding of them to move these people out of that environment.
Supervisor Matt Haney warns the outbreak has implications beyond the shelter.
If you think this is just about unhoused or homeless people, you've got it wrong. People who are unhoused and homeless interact regularly with people who are not. And the potential for this to spread from large crowded shelters to the street, to people who are housed, to impact people who are close to you and me and who we know is huge.
That possibility now has the city doing detective work to figure out what kind of spread the outbreak might be causing beyond shelter doors.
This is a 24-hour, round-the-clock operation, and the situation and numbers are changing.
Wilson Walker, CBSN Bay Area.
Let's get over to weather now. Chief Meteorologist Paul Hagan is keeping an eye on conditions for us across the country.
Continue to pile into the emergency
As we head into Easter
department.
weekend, a major storm system is going to be making its way through the middle of the country. It's brought flooding rains in Southern California over the past couple of days. It's going to bring a major severe weather threat to the deep south for Easter Sunday. Let's take a look at the big picture, and we're going to zoom in for a closer look at where the fireworks are going to blow up on Saturday. And that's where we're talking about enhanced risk of severe weather for parts of Texas. Early afternoon, we're talking about some thunderstorms in North Texas up into Oklahoma. Those could become severe, but the main event is going to develop a little bit later. We're talking after the sun goes down. Thunderstorms blowing up in southwestern Texas. Those are the ones that are going to hold on to that severe status even overnight as they march eastward across the Lone Star State, bringing the threat of very large hail, damaging winds, and the possibility of tornadoes as well. It is an enhanced risk of severe weather that includes Austin, San Antonio, Waco. Slight risk includes Houston and Dallas, but the major severe weather threat is going to shape up even greater than that on Easter Sunday. As the storms continue to roll to the east, you see a lot of rain from Mississippi and Alabama, West Tennessee. But south of that big glob of rain is where the best mix of severe weather ingredients is actually going to shape up. Could be looking at the possibility of long-track tornadoes on Easter Sunday. So if you know people who live in this area, if you are watching this and live in this area, make sure you're staying weather aware on Easter Sunday. Heavy rain is also going to be a threat from Alabama into Middle Tennessee, eventually into East Tennessee by Easter Sunday evening. It's a moderate risk of severe weather. Don't be fooled by that word. It's level 4 out of 5, and this is likely, at least part of it, to be upgraded to a high risk of severe weather. That's the top of the scale, and this may get adjusted just a little bit farther north. Be continuing to evaluate that data as we head into the weekend, and also that threat of too much rain has led to a moderate risk of excessive rainfall from northern Mississippi into northern Alabama and much of Tennessee. On Saturday, in advance of all that, it's going to be a pretty normal springtime day across much of the country, but there is going to be a wintertime aspect of the storm system as well for the upper Midwest. We'll talk about that coming up a little later in the half hour.
Coming up, the financial fallout of the coronavirus pandemic. Why some businesses say the promised relief isn't coming fast enough. You're watching CBSN.
Have something to share? We want to see it. Hashtag KPIX. Got a great photo or video? We may use your post on air or online. Hashtag KPIX.
Every day, we're inspired to see how the Bay Area is rising to the challenge.
Just a token of our appreciation.
Sometimes when you're at your lowest in life, you come up with some of the greatest ideas.
So we're telling your stories, sharing resources, and connecting those in need with those who can lend a helping hand.
I thought it was just fabulous to be able to really help out in times of need.
Because we're always better together. Learn more at kpix.com/together. It's times like this that make you wonder, are we strong enough? Then something changes. We adapt, sacrifice, and remember how important it is to look out for each other.
Next on KPIX5, how an act of kindness is saving lives.
Turns out, it's times like this that show you exactly who we are. Better together. It's a sky-high view like no other, and now it's your perspective. Morning to night. From the tallest building in the West, the Salesforce Tower cams, only on KPIX5 News. Expect more.
Americans have an increasingly negative view of the economy's financial health, and their prognosis for it is not upbeat. According to a CBS News poll, only about a third expect this downturn to be temporary. Many are interpreting the nation's economic fate through their own experience. Small businesses have been hit hard, and despite the government offering $349 billion in forgivable loans, CBSN's Jim Axelrod shows us for some, the promised relief is not coming fast enough.
They're in order for 907 Fifth.
Evan Obsatz owns Butterfield Market, a New York City grocery and catering company his family has run for 45 years.
We had 2,000 customers a day walking in, and right now we're averaging just a couple hundred.
Obsatz is staring down a cold reality facing small business owners across the country.
Anything else?
With revenue sinking, how long can he keep afloat?
A few more weeks, realistically. We're still an essential business, but our funds are running low.
The downturn couldn't have come at a worse time. Obsatz was in the midst of the biggest expansion in the company's history.
This is caught in the middle.
A sister market around the corner that would have created 70 new jobs.
It's difficult to think that, that this might not happen, but I'm hopeful that it will.
Last Friday, the federal government tried to twist open the spigot on the Paycheck Protection Program, money to help small businesses cover payroll for 8 weeks. If the businesses retain their employees, the loan is forgiven. The cash comes from the federal treasury, but Americans have to apply through their banks.
They heard that the funds will be released in the last half of April. Realistically, that's 2 to 3 weeks away, so we'll see.
The system is not prepared and capable of processing all these millions of loans. That's the worry.
Not only did Alan Doole's accounting firm guide Butterfield and more than a dozen of his other clients as they applied for stimulus loans, he applied for one himself. Not a single one has seen a penny yet.
The SBA has never gone through anything like this before, and I have the sense that they're overwhelmed.
It's not just the government, it's the banks too. We obtained this message from Wells Fargo explaining delays due to high demand and warning there will be limited funds that could run out. Chase Bank told Doole his loan is coming in a couple of days, but he's not counting on that.
I'm trying to be realistic about it, and I'm telling my clients the same thing.
Never in American history has so much of the economy simply vanished so quickly. A 10-block walk in New York offered a glimpse of the evidence. Storefront after storefront, small businesses plastered with makeshift one-page distress notes, all communicating the same message. We're closed.
The plan is being changed every day. And it seems like the individuals that are making the changes don't seem to know themselves what direction to go.
Purcell Keeling has owned Simply Wholesome, a restaurant and market in Los Angeles since 1984.
Monday morning, I go into my branch to talk to my banker. He didn't know what was going on. He was in shock.
Your own banker didn't know how to access the money from the SBA?
He wasn't even informed, so he couldn't even inform us to apply because he didn't know.
Is it frustrating for you when you're hearing, no, the SBA is going to get involved and they are going to provide a safety net?
But when? That's the question. That's the million-dollar question.
On Tuesday, President Trump abruptly ousted the watchdog charged with spotting corruption in the more than $2 trillion that's just starting to flood the economy.
It's going to be a literal playground for fraud.
Neil Barofsky served as the special inspector general during the 2008 financial crisis.
If this money and this firepower gets wasted, you're missing an opportunity to get it right. And we just cannot afford right now to get it wrong.
The SBA didn't respond to any of our questions, including one as basic as how much money has actually arrived into the hands of small business owners so far. And here might be a reason why. All of last year, the SBA received 60,000 loan applications. Just last week, nearly 500,000. Jim Axelrod, CBS News, Montclair, New Jersey.
The IRS is making it easier for some Americans who did not file a tax return in 2018 or 2019 to receive federal stimulus money. A new web portal will allow them to submit basic bank account information for direct deposits. The government says that the first round of payments will go out next week. There'll be automatic deposits for qualifying taxpayers. Americans might be spending less on going out these days, but some of those dollars appear to be going toward in-home offices and gyms. That's according to data compiled by online payment site Affirm, which found sales of office products like desks, chairs, and computer monitors are up 200% since the start of the year. Fitness equipment like Peloton and Echelon have seen more than a 160% growth. Online sales for companies selling vacuums as well as air and water purifiers have increased by 70%. New York is among many states that's been overwhelmed with a surge in unemployment claims. Well, now Google is stepping in to help. The state has partnered with the tech giant to launch an application portal designed to handle a high increase of volume of users due to the pandemic. That site will allow applicants to save their work and then pick it up later. The company says that it could potentially bring the service to other states facing similar issues. Up next, racing to help coronavirus patients breathe. How a Formula One team is doing its part. You're watching CBSN.
Hey, it's Ian Armitage from Young Sheldon.
This is Annie Potts.
It's me, Saniqua Martin Green.
It's Phil Kogan here from The Amazing Race with some crazy hair for a crazy time.
If you're anything like me, you're at home glued to your TV.
Checking the news, checking our phones.
You are not alone. We are all in this together.
You are not alone.
We want you to know that you are not alone.
You're not alone.
We're all in this together.
We're still us.
We can still laugh
and smile.
Still share moments
and be happy.
That's what I'm going to be doing.
This is a time when we really need to focus on what's important.
Let's be responsible.
Remember, 6 feet. The Bay Area needs you.
We are here for you, all working together.
It's really important to remember that we are all in this together.
You are not alone.
We are all in this together.
It's a sky-high view like no other, and now it's your perspective. Morning to night. From the tallest building in the West, the Salesforce Tower cams, only on KPIX 5 News. Expect more.
We talked a little earlier about that threat of severe weather from Texas into the deep south as we head into Easter weekend, but there's also going to be a wintry side of that system that is going to impact portions of the Great Plains and the upper Midwest. We're going to zoom in for a closer look at the future radar as we head through the weekend. Not the severe weather in the deep south, but that wintry weather moving from Nebraska and the Dakotas into Iowa and Minnesota and continuing to advance to the east and northeast through Wisconsin and the upper peninsula of Michigan as we head into the evening hours on Easter Sunday. Already in advance of this, there are advisories in place. The dark blue is a winter storm watch that will likely be upgraded to a winter storm warning for at least parts of the Twin Cities metropolitan area. That extends back into Nebraska, but already winter storm warnings in effect for north central Nebraska. The snow isn't going to stick around too long because it's going to fall onto relatively warm ground. In advance of that snow, temperatures will be in the upper 50s for highs in the Twin Cities on Saturday. But farther south, that's where that severe weather threat is going to shape up. We'll talk about that again coming up in the next half hour.
With ventilators in short supply, a team of British engineers has designed a tool for coronavirus patients that could reduce the need for them. CBSN's Riley Carlson has details.
The coronavirus may have put the brakes on Formula One racing, but the Mercedes-AMG team is not out of the race to help those infected.
Breathe nice and easily. Well done.
The company joined up with researchers and engineers at University College London to design a machine that delivers oxygen to a patient's lungs to help them breathe without the need for a ventilator.
With this, the patient can be spontaneously breathing, communicating, and hopefully better oxygenating.
It took fewer than 100 hours to produce a continuous positive airway pressure machine known as CPAP, a device already used in hospitals but in short supply.
We've cleverly thought about how we can go back to existing devices and models, reverse engineer them, and then engage with our industry partners to manufacture them at scale.
China and Italy used CPAP equipment to help COVID-19 patients. Reports from Italy show about 50% of patients given CPAP did not need a ventilator, keeping the devices free for those who desperately need them.
I sincerely think it may actually save many lives by preventing patients from needing to go onto a ventilator.
The breathing aids are being trialed at University College London Hospital and will be rolled out to other medical facilities soon. Mercedes-AMG says it can scale up production quickly, delivering 1,000 a day if needed, helping healthcare workers keep their foot on the gas so more patients can recover. Riley Carlson, CBS News, London.
There are potential risks from using CPAP machines with COVID-19 patients. Contaminated droplets can escape from the device, but UK researchers believe the risk is very low if healthcare workers have the proper protective equipment. A new study helps explain why smokers and people with lung disease may be most at risk for developing severe COVID-19 infections. Researchers in Canada found that those groups have higher levels of a specific molecule in their lungs, which creates an entry point for the coronavirus. Volunteers who helped during the AIDS epidemic of the 1980s have found a new calling during the coronavirus crisis. It's all thanks to a partnership between the San Francisco Bay Area Community Services and the National AIDS Memorial. The organizations are teaming up to keep frontline services to homeless community members open. They have recruited stewards of the AIDS Memorial quilt to use their sewing machines and materials to make face masks.
It was a way that I could help my community and help people, whether I knew them or not, and do whatever I could, because I can sew.
The quilt volunteers work in isolation to sew those masks, and in just the first week, they made more than 400 of them and delivered them to Bay Area Community Services. Stay-at-home orders can create challenges for couples living in close quarters. CBSN's Don Ford found out what you can do to survive this lockdown together.
Order to stay in your home for weeks with your close family, close friends, close pets. Sometimes all that closeness can cause emotional close calls.
Business is booming.
Erica London is a licensed marriage family therapist. She helps folks via Skype. The same issue keeps popping up.
We are stressed out and we don't know what to do with these kids. We can manage the working from home or being together, just adults. But when you throw in the kids into the mix, that is the big one that I'm hearing over and over again is the kids are driving us nuts. What do we do with the kids?
She suggests some of the old-fashioned things like large puzzles, board games, and yes, walking around the block for sunshine and fresh air.
I'm always right, so as long as he gets that, we're okay.
Anna and Orlando just moved in with each other days before the quarantine orders. It's an adjustment.
Apparently some of us, me, we don't know how to load up a dishwasher, so that will create a low moment very quick. And then she gets upset and goes into her dungeon, aka her office. My office is the living room.
Take a walk, go to another room, just take a deep breath and collect myself before I come back to this conversation.
Staying positive is important.
Now I think we found a routine, so it's not so bad, but the days just kind of mix in all together.
I like it. I'm a homebody, so to me this is perfect.
In San Francisco, Don Ford, CBSN Bay Area.
Straight ahead, city leaders across the nation making one big plea: stay inside this Easter weekend. Why they say the next few days is crucial. You're watching CBSN.
It's times like this that make you wonder, are we strong enough? Then something changes. We adapt, sacrifice, and remember how important it is to look out for each other.
Next on KPIX5, how an act of kindness is saving lives.
Turns out, it's times like this that show you exactly who we are. Better together. Every day, we're inspired to see how the Bay Area is rising to the challenge.
Just a token of our appreciation.
Sometimes when you're at your lowest in life, you come up with some of the greatest ideas.
So we're telling your stories, sharing resources, and connecting those in need with those who can lend a helping hand.
I thought it was just fabulous to be able to really help out in times of need.
Because we're always better together. Learn more at kpix.com/together. It's a sky-high view like no other, and now it's your perspective. Morning to night. From the tallest building in the West, the Salesforce Tower cams, only on KPIX5 News. Expect more.
Thanks for staying with us. I'm Alan Martin, and here's another look at some of today's top stories. The U.S. has now surpassed 500,000 confirmed coronavirus cases, and the number of dead is more than 16,000. New York is still the epicenter, but Pennsylvania now has about 20,000 cases. The White House is looking at Philadelphia as a possible new hotspot, with data showing African Americans are more at risk. Amtrak is getting a boost from the feds. The Department of Transportation is making $1 billion available to offset the loss of ticket revenue, which is used to pay employees. The funds will also help maintain service once the economy gets going again. San Francisco taking a big step to help the struggling restaurant industry. The city has now put a cap on the cut that delivery services can take. Mayor London Breed says apps like DoorDash, Caviar, Grubhub can now take no more than 15% of the total bill. The apps have charged up to 30%, which restaurant owners say makes it hard to turn a profit. U.S. funding for the World Health Organization is suddenly in doubt. President Trump says that he will make an announcement on the matter next week.
We're looking at it very, very closely. We want to make sure money is properly spent. But again, why is the United States paying $500 million a year? It's a lot.
The president accuses the WHO of having a bias towards China. The WHO was founded by the United Nations after World War II and played a leading role in the eradication of smallpox and the creation of a vaccine for Ebola. The world hit a grim milestone Friday in the fight against COVID-19. There are now more than 100,000 deaths worldwide. Italy still has the most deaths of any country, with more than 18,000. But the gap between Italy and the U.S. is only about 100. There are more than 1.6 million confirmed cases, and more than 376,000 of those cases have recovered. Coronavirus has changed the way we interact with those closest to us. This video of a mother in Spain talking with her newborn baby over video chat. It's just the latest example. Felicia is a first-time mother. She tested positive for coronavirus just days before her daughter Luna was born. For Felicia and other mothers, this is the only way to see their baby while they battle the virus. Drones are flying around Cannes, France, spraying disinfecting solution for the first time. Those new drones help protect the operators from contracting the virus through contact while spraying diluted bleach into the air. France has been hit hard by coronavirus with more than 125,000 cases and 13,000 deaths. Vending machines packed with face masks, gloves, and sanitizer popped up on the streets of Poland. They are expected to be installed across the country as Poland continues its lockdown until April 19th. More than 5,000 people in Poland have gotten coronavirus, and more than 100 people have died from the virus. A first for the Catholic Church this Good Friday. Pope Francis led a Way of the Cross service in a nearly empty St. Peter's Square. The procession has been held in Rome's Colosseum every year since 1964. But this year, it was live streamed around the world. And a somber Good Friday in Jerusalem. A handful of friars walked along the empty Via Dolorosa. The procession there would normally be packed with pilgrims and tourists retracing the steps they believe Jesus took ahead of his crucifixion. It will be a much different Easter this Sunday. Social distancing and virtual worships are replacing the traditional church services. But as CBSN's Laura Podesta reports, some congregations may push back.
Easter Sunday celebrates the resurrection of Jesus Christ. President Trump once hoped it would mark the resurrection of the U.S. economy and a return to work for many Americans.
I would say by Easter we'll have a recommendation, and maybe before Easter.
But as the number of those succumbing to COVID-19 continues to rise and social distancing guidelines remain firmly in place, churches will not be holding regular service this Sunday. Standing far apart and wearing face masks, these Texas pastors invited their congregation to worship online.
So we're doing what we are supposed to do, and we want you to see the streaming of your church, see the streaming of many of our churches. We'll be online, Facebook. We still will have resurrection service.
Some churches are offering drive-in services where parishioners can sit in their car and listen from the parking lot. But in certain states with strict stay-at-home orders, even that's not allowed. The governor of Nevada and officials in Southern California are banning drive-in worship, like this recent gathering in Wisconsin. Some congregants are refusing to abide by any social distancing guidelines. State troopers twice last Sunday had to break up services at this church in Georgia for not complying with the governor's order to keep people 6 feet apart. The church says it will be open again this Sunday.
In nome del Padre, del Figlio e dello Spirito Santo.
Pope Francis will be social distancing. The Vatican reports he'll celebrate Easter alone in St. Peter's Basilica. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
Officials around the country are making a resounding plea for people to stay home during the holiday weekend when they might be tempted to visit family and celebrate. CBSN's Devin Feely's in the San Francisco Bay Area's hardest hit county, where officials are happy with the progress being made, but they say now is not the time to ease up on the social distancing.
The shelter-in-place order has kept a lid on the virus and the outbreak here in the Bay Area. Think of us compared to New York City. But this weekend, with Easter and some pretty nice weather in store, is going to be a big test of our willingness to make personal sacrifices for the good of our collective health.
This virus is very contagious. It loves crowds. It loves groups. It spreads rapidly.
Santa Clara County Chief Executive Jeff Smith says now is not the time to let the virus slip the leash, urging people across the Bay Area not to be tempted by the Easter holiday and warm weekend weather to relax social distancing.
Because we're making progress doesn't mean it's over. It's far from over. We still have a long way to go with social distancing.
Smith says he understands that people are getting restless, but says the shelter-in-place order is the only protection currently against a resurgence of the virus.
I miss going to school and saying hi to my friends. We enjoy playing tag together a lot. We miss, being able to hang out, enjoy lunch and talk together.
County officials say they've noticed more drivers on the road in recent days. They urged people to avoid in-person Easter celebrations, encouraging them to instead opt for phone and video conferences.
And we all want to spend time with our families. But this year, we're going to have to make some new traditions.
And prepare potentially for weeks more of stay-at-home orders.
You don't have to, completely stay in the house. There's always the backyard. You could always take walks around the block, see what your neighbors are doing.
Dr. Smith says a public health and policy challenge is how do you prevent someone who's infected from outside of the area or outside of the state, perhaps, from traveling here. He says that could start a brand new outbreak. In San Jose, Devin Feely for CBSN Bay Area.
Visitors are being asked to stay away from the Golden Gate Bridge over the weekend. To help with the crowds, all the parking lots are currently closed through Monday morning. In addition, security will be patrolling this weekend to make sure all walkers and bikers are social distancing. In Southern California, the mayor of Los Angeles is shutting down parks in the city this weekend in an attempt to discourage large Easter gatherings. The closure will begin Saturday evening and last through Monday morning. And in Dallas, all of the city's nearly 400 parks will be shut down for Easter weekend. Last week, crowds estimated at 30,000 packed sections of White Rock Lake in Dallas despite the social distancing orders. Los Angeles has extended its stay at home through May 15th. Now, Beverly Hills is already ordering all residents to cover their face whenever they are outside. That mandate supersedes LA Mayor Eric Garcetti's order for everyone to cover their face while at the supermarket and at other essential businesses. CBSN's Candace Crone on the new rules.
Shoppers in Beverly Hills walked into this Whole Foods market with their mouth and nose covered even before the city's mandatory face covering order went into effect. Everyone, including essential workers, must wear a non-medical grade mask or bandana the moment they leave their home to help slow the spread of COVID-19.
We wanted to be ahead of the curve. We knew that there was going to be the holiday season now and people were going to want to congregate and get together. And this was really a way to get one step ahead of it so that people are aware of the fact that they still need to have that social distancing.
Washing my hand, I stay at home most of time. And when I come out, I put mask. I keep far from another person. Wash everything if I take.
Drivers traveling alone or with their family don't have to wear a covering unless they have to lower their windows to interact with someone. When it comes to children, the CDC recommends cloth face coverings not be placed on kids under age 2. Instead, wash their hands regularly and keep them away from sick people. Similar orders have already gone into effect in LA, Burbank, Santa Monica, and surrounding cities. Conception Cortine, who's visiting Beverly Hills from Qatar, says she's staying put until all the restrictions are lifted.
We come for visit, then we are already stuck here. We cannot go home anymore. So we are just waiting. I hope it will open soon and we will go back to our country.
And signs are posted at local grocery stores to remind people to practice social distancing. Businesses can refuse service to customers not wearing a mask. In Beverly Hills, Candace Crone, CBS 2 News.
Now let's check back in with our chief meteorologist, Paul Hagan. Another look at the weekend forecast.
As we head into Easter weekend, a major storm system is going to be making its way through the middle of the country. It's brought flooding rains to Southern California over the past couple of days. It's going to bring a major severe weather threat to the deep south for Easter Sunday. Let's take a look at the big picture, and we're going to zoom in for a closer look at where the fireworks are going to blow up on Saturday. And that's where we're talking about an enhanced risk of severe weather for parts of Texas. Early afternoon, we're talking about some thunderstorms in North Texas up into Oklahoma. Those could become severe, but the main event is going to develop a little bit later. We're talking after the sun goes down. Thunderstorms blowing up in southwestern Texas. Those are the ones that are going to hold on to that severe status even overnight as they march eastward across the Lone Star State, bringing the threat of very large hail, damaging winds, and the possibility of tornadoes as well. It is an enhanced risk of severe weather that includes Austin, San Antonio, Waco. Slight risk includes Houston and Dallas. But the major severe weather threat is going to shape up even greater than that on Easter Sunday. As the storms continue to roll to the east, you see a lot of rain from Mississippi into Alabama, West Tennessee. But south of that big glob of rain is where the best mix of severe weather ingredients is actually going to shape up. Could be looking at the possibility of long track tornadoes on Easter Sunday. So if you know people who live in this area, if you are watching this and live in this area, make sure you're staying weather aware on Easter Sunday. Heavy rain is also going to be a threat from Alabama into Middle Tennessee Tennessee, eventually into East Tennessee by Easter Sunday evening. It's a moderate risk of severe weather. Don't be fooled by that word. It's level 4 out of 5, and this is likely, at least part of it, to be upgraded to a high risk of severe weather. That's the top of the scale, and this may get adjusted just a little bit farther north. Be continuing to evaluate that data as we head into the weekend, and also that threat of too much rain has led to a moderate risk of excessive rainfall from northern Mississippi into northern Alabama and much of Tennessee. On Saturday, in advance of all that, it's going to be a pretty normal springtime day across much of the country, but there is going to be a wintertime aspect of the storm system as well for the upper Midwest. We'll talk about that coming up a little later in the half hour.
Up next, doing your part. How you can team up with researchers in the fight against the pandemic. You are watching CBSN.
Have something to share? We want to see it. Hashtag KPIX. Got a great photo or video? We may use your post on air or online. Hashtag KPIX.
Every day, we're inspired to see how the Bay Area is rising to the challenge.
Just a token of our appreciation.
Sometimes when you're at your lowest in life, you come up with some of the greatest ideas.
So we're telling your stories, sharing resources, and connecting those in need with those who can lend a helping hand.
Thought it was just fabulous to be able to really help out in times of need.
Because we're always better together. Learn more at kpix.com/together. It's times like this that make you wonder, are we strong enough? Then something changes. We adapt, sacrifice, and remember how important it is to look out for each other.
Next on KPIX5, how an act of kindness is saving lives.
Turns out, it's times like this that show you exactly who we are. Better together. It's a sky-high view like no other, and now it's your perspective. Morning to night. From the tallest building in the West, the Salesforce Tower cams, only on KPIX5 News. Expect more.
Just a quick 30-second check of weather to get you caught up on what we expect as we head into a busy Easter weekend weather-wise. Significant storm system moving through the middle of the country, bringing a severe weather threat to much of Texas on Saturday, and an even higher risk of severe weather is going to shape up over the deep south on Easter Sunday. On the northern side of that system, it's going to be a snow event moving out of the northern Rockies into the Great Plains and eventually the upper Midwest on Sunday. All sorts of weather hazards in the forecast for Easter Sunday itself. On Saturday, a pretty normal temperature pattern across the country.
With the coronavirus pandemic stretching the healthcare system, some groups against abortion rights are pressing their agenda. So far, 5 states have tried to ban the procedure, declaring it non-essential. Well, Thursday evening, the ban in Texas was blocked, allowing some abortions in the state to resume. But as CBSN's Kate Smith reports, advocates think that ruling may be short-lived.
Hours before her abortion in Texas, Brittany found out her appointment was canceled.
I just felt so lost. I was just crying and crying and crying. I called my mom. She was like, I know, honey, I'm so sorry.
Brittany is one of hundreds of patients caught in the middle of what some say is a public health crisis within a public health crisis.
We're trying to save lives.
2 weeks ago, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton issued a near-total ban on abortion amid the coronavirus outbreak, calling the procedure non-essential. For the first time since Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court ruling that legalized the procedure in 1973, the vast majority of abortion services have been unavailable in the state.
It's not an easy decision. It affects a lot of people's lives in a negative way. And I'm sad that that happens to these women.
He's making these decisions without fully understanding the impact.
Dr. Amna Dermish provides abortion services at a Planned Parenthood affiliate in Austin.
The Attorney General's office says in court that to suspend abortions temporarily is a fair trade-off given the public health crisis.
It is not, because that assumes that abortion is not a time-sensitive procedure, and it is very much a time-sensitive procedure.
The American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology agrees with Dr. Dermish. In a statement, the organization called abortion an essential component of comprehensive health care.
I saw a patient just this week who was diagnosed with a fetal anomaly, and she can't have an abortion.
5 states, including Texas, have instituted temporary abortion bans, citing the need to conserve medical resources. All face legal challenges.
Why is a temporary ban on abortion not considered unconstitutional?
Well, the governor's executive order deals with all elective procedures, so it's not like he was singling out abortion services.
The battle could make it all the way to the Supreme Court. Brittany says she does not plan to wait.
I have a choice. Whenever I want to become a mother, I can, and this is not the time.
She told us she plans to drive to New Mexico to terminate her pregnancy, defying the state's stay-at-home order. Kate Smith, CBS News, New York.
You want to do more to battle against COVID-19? Well, thanks to some UC San Francisco scientists, you can. I spoke with one Bay Area woman showing that any adult with a smartphone can sign up. As we adjust to a different way of life, putting on masks, washing our hands, hunkering down, consider Marissa Miller of Tiburon.
Jiminy Christmas!
In the comfort of her own home, Miller is a newly minted citizen scientist, all thanks to a smartphone and a special app.
Here's the app icon. It's a little heart.
It's called the COVID-19 Citizen Science Initiative.
So far, it's been really interesting, and I feel a little proud that I'm participating in the cause.
The goal? To advance the understanding of how and where the virus spreads and why it's lethal in some people but not others. The hope? That it goes viral in a good way.
They're hoping every participant shares it with 5 of their friends, who will then share it with 5 of their friends, and so on.
We'd like to show how contact among individuals can actually help spread science and spread solutions.
Here's how it works. Download the app, and there's an initial survey of your health and daily habits. You have the option of sharing your location and other data, such as step counts.
And they pop up in the morning and just let me know it's time to check in.
Participants answer surveys, some daily.
We ask about symptoms, we ask about people in their household, and we try to get a sense of their actual social distancing.
As for security and privacy concerns,
all the data is as secure as we can make it. It's essentially part of the University of California data set, the same level of security as electronic health record.
With technology, we can do anything.
You can get access to the COVID-19 Citizen Science app by texting COVID to 41411. Researchers hope to enroll 1 million people for that app. 2 of Silicon Valley's largest companies are joining forces to fight coronavirus using smartphone technology. Apple and Google are working to enable contact tracing, a measure that identifies people who have been exposed to the virus and those with whom they have been in contact. Well, starting next month, the software will allow health officials to gather detailed data on the whereabouts of cell phone users. Data will only be gathered from users who voluntarily download the apps and participate in the program. Some encouraging news coming from one San Francisco Bay Area coronavirus clinical trial. Researchers at Gilead say patients who have tested remdesivir have either improved or shown no new symptoms. The drug was created to treat Ebola, and now 53 patients with severe COVID-19 symptoms